rest day is upon us. So I am out running some errands. I thought, well, I'll make this video and we can talk about what everything looks like and you know, just how we're going to approach our workouts, talk about where we're at with our successes and so on and so forth. So we dropped body fat percentage again to our lowest percentage yet. We are now at 13% body fat. Still can't see abs. The upper abs are starting to come in. Middle abs, you can see the outline of. The lower abs, really not much there. So we're getting close. We're just definitely not there yet. I thought I would do this video a little bit different. If it turns out to be super shaky, then you know, I will definitely take that into consideration and do something different next time. But might turn out just fine. Anyway, 13% body fat, abs starting to come in, upper abs starting to look better, middle abs starting to see the outline, lower abs, really nothing there. I still have a pinchable layer of fat over my abs, but it is much less than it used to be. Very, very much. Used to, I could get like 2 fucking handfuls, and now I can't even get, I get maybe half a handful, about right here. I can grab about that much. That's about it. So much, much better than we used to be. When I look at pictures and compare myself to, because there's websites you can go to, you can just Google it and look, but there's websites you can go to, and on those websites you can see what other people look like at various body fat percentages. Then you can find body types that are close to yours and see if your look is starting to look like their looks. Now, I would never suggest judging yourself against anybody. I mean, this is your journey. This is your your journey, right? Nobody else's. This is your experience, nobody else's experience. And you're not going to have a body that looks exactly like somebody else's body. Your muscular structure is not going to be the same as somebody else. Your muscular build is not going to be the same as somebody else. Where your muscles intersect, your tendons, all of that is going to be different, right? There's some folks that have 8-pack abs. Well, there's some folks that have 10-pack abs. So you just never know what your genetics are going to hold until you cut your body fat down. You can see what it looks like. So just be mindful of that when I say this. But anyway, there's websites you can go to. You can look, you can see what other people of your similar stature, size, body type look like. And you can get an idea of where your body fat percentage is compared to those folks. Right? So if you are trying to figure out, am I 10% body fat? Am I 15% body fat? Am I 20% body fat? It's not going to be super accurate, but you can get close. You can look and say, okay, 20% is a lot more body fat than I have on my body right now. So I know that I'm lower than 20%. Okay, 15, all right, maybe I'm around the 15 mark, right? So then you can know around about where you're at body fat wise. The other thing you can do is the handheld scale that I utilize also tell you your body fat percentage. That is pretty accurate. Or you can get the Hume scale, which is what I have upgraded to, and that is what we will be using from this point moving forward. Now the Hume scale says that I am around 11 to 10% body fat. I think that I might have a little bit more body fat than the Hume scale is analyzing, but I could be very biased in what I think too. So I would say let's take the 13, let's take the 11. Well, the Hume scale was saying 11, 10.5, 11. Let's cut that in half. We could say probably about 12% body fat is probably where I'm at. Probably somewhere in the middle. So, even if we just go with the measurements we've been going with, 13 is the lowest we've had. Now, what does my weight look like? My weight went up from 199.5, and we're talking totally dried out. In other words, when I say totally dried out, I mean I cut my carbs for 48 hours prior to being weighing in, and ensured that I ate no more than 50 carbs per day for those 48 hours prior to weigh-in. I drank plenty of water until 12 hours before weigh-in, and then I stopped drinking water completely for those 12 hours to rid my body of as much water as possible. And during those 48 hours, I did not ingest excess salt. I didn't salt any of my food. I tried to eat foods that were no salt added. I tried to make whole foods during that time so that I would know how much salt content I was putting into my food. That way, I could excrete the water out of my system. That's why it's called drying out. You're excreting the water out of your system. So carbohydrates hold water. You don't ingest those for 48 hours, and it releases intracellular and extracellular water that your body would hold. Salt helps you retain water. You don't ingest salt for those 48 hours. Again, it allows you to reduce water weight. Also, electrolytes. I switched from having electrolyte drinks to only having water drinks, or only drinking water, and no zero sugar sodas. And the reason that you switch to no zero sugar soda is because those are high in salt content, not because of aspartame or anything being bad for you or anything like that. Just high in salt content and cause you to retain water. And the whole point of drying out is to try to get as much water weight off of our body as we can to see what our muscle and fat mass is without excessive water weight. That's the goal. So when I did all that the last time I weighed in at 199.5 pounds. Broke the 200 pound goal that we had. After carbing up, after ingesting water, after eating all the salt I wanted. My next weigh-in, a wet weigh-in, it was 203.5. Either 203.5 or 204.5, one of the two. And utilizing that wet weigh-in to determine our weight loss for the 90-day cycle, we lost, what was it, 13 pounds of weight, and it wound up being 1.175 pounds per week. A little over 1 pound per week of weight loss. If we're talking about our walking around weight, what we are every day, fully carb, fully salted, fully hydrated. Then I did a refeed the very next day, and I started my new routine the very next day at the same time with the refeed. So next week we will weigh in and we will see what our new weight is, our new 7-day weight is. And I have started weighing daily. I'm not going to be reporting it daily because it does not provide an accurate weight. If you look at what you're doing daily, you need to look at what you're doing weekly, or you can take daily and you can average it out over 7 days, and that'll give you a better idea of what your weight loss is. So that's what we will be doing moving forward. And I will be showing you the Hume app, and we'll go through that. Matter of fact, let's just take a second and I will pop up the Hume app on here, and we will go through where it says we're at now. And don't be surprised when you see this weight jump on here, because essentially I went from 204 to 214 due to increased carbohydrate consumption, increased water consumption, and so on and so forth. So the weight that you're going to see is pretty much a false weight. Okay, so the first thing we're going to notice is our weight, right? And 212.4 pounds right now, 10.8% body fat. We'll notice that our water is 64.9% water. And then it goes into our body and fat mass, where we can see our lean mass, 175.5 pounds, and our fat mass, 22.9 pounds. Shows us our subcutaneous fat or visceral fat. It takes us to our biometrics, showing us protein rates, inorganic salt rates, and it also takes us down into our individual trunk fats and so on and so forth, all the way down into our health. One of the cool things I love about this app is that it shows us our results against a DEXA scan with a 98.7% accuracy. So when we look here, we're looking at the DEXA scan output, and you can see that we're looking really good as far as the DEXA. Another thing I really like about this app is that we're able to look at our body, and we're able to see where we are in comparison to ourselves, right? We can see where our muscle
is at, and where we're strong and where we have weaknesses. So right now, our abdomen is our weakest point. So we really need to build our ab muscles, whereas our legs are our stronger point and our arms are a stronger point, and we're above average on everything except for our abs. So when compared to other males our age, we are above average when it comes to hypertrophy. Not only do we get a good look at what we look like as far as our muscle goes, but we also get a good look of what we look like as far as our fat goes. So we can see that our arms are holding the most fat, our legs are holding the least fat, and our abdomen is holding the second most amount of fat. So it's really pretty right on with what I see when I look in the mirror, except for I would think that my trunk fat, my abdomen fat, is a little bit on the higher end, but according to the scan, it's not. So I kind of take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. Another thing I really like is the body composition aspect of this app. It gives you a quick view of your body composition. So it tells us right off the bat we're 212.4 pounds. Lets us know what our basal metabolic rate is at 2,077. And the nice thing about that is I'm able to do a little bit of math and I'm able to determine what my maintenance calories are that I have a more accurate basal metabolic rate, and then I can add 500 to bulk or take away 500 to cut. And so it takes a lot of the guesswork out of knowing what we should be eating calorie wise. Also, our fat percentage, 10.8%, muscle is 175.5 pounds. And if I look at the health report shows me on fair health at 668%. And the biggest issue it has with me is that I don't sleep enough. And I would say that that is 100% accurate. I do not get enough sleep. But my metabolic age is 35, which is excellent. For somebody at my age, 47 years old, to have the health of a 35-year-old, I am doing something right. So I really like this scale and how it provides me all this data that I can utilize to do my bodybuilding. And I can utilize it to make sure that I'm on the right track and I'm uh, focusing on the things that I need to focus on to get the goals that I need to get. And one of the things I was wondering is, okay, well, I've cut way down, my body fat is low, but I'm not seeing my abs yet. What's going on here? And I was talking to a professional bodybuilder at the gym, and he told me, you just don't have any ab muscles yet because you haven't worked those muscles. You need to build them out, and that's why you're not able to see them yet. You don't have the muscles there to see. And I thought, wow, okay, that's very interesting. So I've always heard abs are made in the kitchen. As long as you diet, cut your body weight down 10%, you're going to see your abs. He said that's not necessarily true. And then I come on here and look, and it shows me that my muscle mass is low across my abdomen. So I know that's something that I need to work on. So that is one of the things I'm going to be focusing on as we move forward is building my abs. All right, so let's take a quick second and check out this progress report. When we look at our alternating dumbbell curls, we can see that we were stuck at the same weight for quite some time, even though we did go up early in the program. Bicep curls, again, stuck at the same weight for quite some time, even though we went up in weight. Cable crunches were kind of up and down, but it has more to do with the weight equipment we were on and how it fluctuated because some equipment allowed us to do more weight than others. Then we had the cable face pull. We see great progression with the cable face pull. Cable front raises, we see that we got stuck for a while at the spot there. Cable hammer curls, we were doing really good. We progressed. We went down and then we started building back up on those. And then calf presses, you can see that we had steady incline on calf presses. Uh, and then the seated calf press, we were kind of stuck at the same rate across that. The closed bench, grip bench press, stuck. Concentration curls, we were stuck on those. Dumbbell shoulder press, we did see some improvement, and then we got stuck on those. Dumbbell single overhead press, we Our extension, we saw some progression with those. Dumbbell front raises, we saw progression with those. Hip thrust, we saw good progression with the hip thrust. Incline hammer curls, we saw that we got kind of stuck on those. The leg curls, we got kind of stuck on those. Leg extensions were up and down, but we did have progression in those. And then the leg press, we saw good progression with the leg press all the way across the board. And leverage high row press, we saw good progression there. All the rows really. Lower cable flies, we saw good progression. Line leg curls, decent progression towards the end. Machine bench press, we got stuck on that towards the end. Machine bicep curls, we were flat across the board on those. Machine butterflies were flat across the board on those after having some progression in the beginning. And then let's see here, machine incline press, we saw some progression, then got stuck on weight. We saw machine shoulder press, we saw progression on those. And then medial cable flies, we saw progression before getting stuck again. Overhead cable curl, we saw progression all the way across the board on those. Reverse grip tricep push downs, we saw progression towards the end of those. The rope push downs, we saw progression towards the end of those. Seated cable row, we kind of been stuck on seated cable row across the board. Slide lateral raises, we saw a little progression in the beginning, then we got stuck, and then we saw progression in the end. And then the Smith incline bench, we have been stuck across the board on that. And the tricep dumbbell kickbacks, we saw good progression all the way across the board on those. Tricep overhead extensions, we saw progression, had a dip when we got hurt and then went back up. Then we had the upper cable flies where we saw good progression in the beginning and kind of got stuck towards the end. Upright cable rows, we saw up and down, but we did have progression all the way across the board. Wide grip lat pull downs, we had one set of progression and we got stuck on those again. And then the wide grip seated rows is another one where we saw progression towards the end. So we've seen progression in just about everything that we've done to some degree, although there were some exercises where we got stuck. And you got to remember, there was some time where we were injured and our chest wasn't feeling right. And so we did back off of the weights on a few of those exercises. And a lot of those came, on back days and things like that. So while the numbers here aren't what, I would love to see, aren't what I saw from previous rounds of exercises, I do see steady progression across almost all exercises across the board. So, we are getting to where we need to be as far as our strength goes. We are getting stronger, but at the same time, you can see where, we had our injuries, we had our setbacks, and sometimes we came back stronger on some of these exercises. Sometimes, we came back, maybe we were a little weaker on some of these exercises. But the thing is that we did come back and we did adjust as needed so that we did see some kind of progression throughout everything. I don't think there's any exercise we didn't see any progression on except for our closed grip bench press and our incline bench press, both on Smith machines. And both of those were finishers, right? So we had worn our body out when we saw those.
So that was pretty cool, wasn't it? I figured everybody would get a kick out of it. So you can see why I'm switching over to the Hume scale and utilizing that. It is 98% accurate when compared to a DEXA scan, which is the most accurate scale that you can get at home. I'm not sponsored. I don't make any money and I ain't got no code to help you save any money if you run out and buy one. Sorry about that. It's just what I've decided to utilize for my bodybuilding journey so that I can have more data to utilize when I'm making determinations on what I want to do moving forward. I think that's important and something to really think about. So, that being said, we can move on. Now, the next thing is, when I looked at our log, all right, for our workout log, it let me know that I have increased my strength in several different areas, and then there were also some areas that I stayed stagnant as far as strength goes. And I've heard people say, well, you can kind of say, okay, well, I gain strength, therefore I gain muscle mass, is what I've heard people say. Right, that's like a theory a lot of folks will use. Like, if you've gained strength, then you gain muscle mass. Well, we know this isn't necessarily true, because there are plenty of strong men out there that don't look particularly huge. They did not enter the hypertrophy zone and get big, even though they got super duper strong, because they stayed within the strength zone. And what are those zones? Well, we know that lifting between 3 to 5 reps is really training for strength and not mass, and that if you train anywhere from 6 to 30 reps, and I know, what a discrepancy, right? Now you're in a mass building zone where you are giving your body the stimuli needed to grow bigger muscle mass. So we know that we were in that the higher end, honestly, of that 6 to 30 rep range. Well, I guess medial end, because we were 20 to 15 to 20 reps is where we were at. Aiming for 15 reps by our third set. So that usually entails 19 reps, 17 reps, then you get your 15th rep, then you move up in weight. Because I believe going to failure is more beneficial than not going to failure. And even though there's been some research out there show that you can leave 1 or 2 reps in the tank, there's also been some research recently that shows that going to failure may produce more gains than 1 or 2 reps in the tank. I believe it's because most people don't know when they're at 1 or 2 reps in the tank, they're really at like 5 or 6 reps in the tank. Especially whenever you're lifting lighter weight and you can lift for longer periods of time with lighter weight. So, something to be known about the last workout that we did. We knew that lifting in the higher rep range like that would still give us the muscle gaining effect we were looking for. And we also know that increases the amount of recovery needed, and it increases the amount of recovery between sets needed. So, is it as effective as a lower rep range? I'm not entirely sure that it is for hypertrophy. And the reason I say that is because if you're damaging your muscles more and you need more time to rest and replenish before your body can not rebuild its muscles again, then it might take you longer to be ready to go again. And in that case, it could stunt the hypertrophic effects that we see, because we may be lifting before we're totally ready to be lifting again. So just keep in mind, if you're doing the higher rep range, there could be some downsides to its effectiveness when it comes to muscle mass building. Now, it definitely is more effective for cutting. And being that we knew we were cutting, I was okay with losing some of the effects of hypertrophy for more of the cutting effects that I gained. In other words, I burned more muscle, I burned more fat by lifting within the 15 to 20 rep range than I would have lifting within a 6 to 10 rep range, because I essentially had to double or more my physical output, or the amount of physical energy that I was outputting, for the same amount of gains, muscle mass wise. But doubling your energy output is going to, you guessed it, double calories burned. So if you are in a fat loss stage, it might behoove you to lift in the higher rep range to burn more fat, if you're okay with the idea that you may not be getting the hypertrophic effects that are absolutely optimal, because you're in the higher rep range and your body may need more time to recover between sets and between body parts, between days that you're performing exercises for various body parts. So just something to think about there. Now, moving forward, what are we going to be doing differently? Okay, one, we're going to be doing what I like to call intuitive lifting. And I am not going to go to the gym any longer with a prescribed program that I'm going to stick to no matter what. I did that for the last year and a quarter, right? And it was very good for me starting out, because I knew what I needed to do when I walked into the gym. I knew what I was going to do when I walked into the gym. I knew what exercises I was going to do. I knew exactly what my routine was going to look like. And if a machine or something was taken, I might start on a different exercise, but I did the same exercises, the same rep ranges, the same everything, every single time I went in for 90 days. And I prescribed it like that so that I could focus on what my technique looked like, what recovery looked like, my my nutrition, all these other aspects of lifting that I needed to master besides the exercise selection and things like that I could worry about later. It also allowed me to try a lot of different exercise selections, because every 90 days I changed up my routine and did a different prescribed routine. So I did that 5 times. So as you can imagine, I've done all kinds of different curls, all kinds of different pullovers, all kinds of different pull downs, all kinds of different rows, close grip, wide grip, just all sorts of different stuff that I programmed and tried and saw what felt really good for my body, what worked for me. Or if it didn't work, fine. I only had to do it for 90 days, but I did it for the full 90 days. That way I'd know for sure whether that exercise was applicable to me. And then I also played around with different rep ranges and things like that. And it allowed me to be able to practice the art of lifting. Because it's not only a science, there is an art that goes into this. And that's where the art comes in. Knowing how something feels, knowing like a pullover right here is going to be better to hit this muscle group than a row, so on and so forth. You know, I want to target these muscles, I want to do this, I want to do that. So that's where the art aspect comes in. And we allowed ourselves just to practice and get better. And now that we've done that, the next thing that we're going to do is the intuitive lifting, like I'm building to. If you're new, you don't want to jump in with this. Get a prescribed program and utilize the prescribed program until you are confident in your abilities. If you've been lifting for a year, now it's time to start thinking, well, maybe this method would be a better method for you to look into or think about. All right, so here's the method. So what I want to do is utilize science to determine what is the absolute optimal sets per muscle group per week that I should be doing. And so the science shows that anywhere between 6 sets and 20 sets per week per muscle group provides growth. If you're brand new to lifting, you don't even need 6 sets. 1 set can work. But we're kind of talking about if you've been lifting for at least a year, okay, you need between 6 and 20 sets. If you've been lifting for a longer period of time, the more sets you need to stimulate muscle growth. Shorter period of time, the less sets you need to stimulate muscle growth. So, knowing that, I'm going to bump up to 7. I'm going to say the minimum number of sets that I want to do per muscle group are 7 sets. So when I go in to do biceps per week, I need to do 7 sets at least per week. So we're going to have the Arnold split. We're not going to change the split. I really like the Arnold split. It's just my favorite personal preference. If you like push-pull legs, you could use that for this routine. Whatever you wanted to do, you can utilize for this routine. But I really like the Arnold split. So for the Arnold split is arms, dedicated arm day, leg, shoulder day, chest, back day. Off, repeat, 6 days a week lifting. For me, it's optimal. I love to have my Thursday off and then to have the remainder of the time that I'm lifting throughout the week. Works well for my schedule. So you got to do what works for your schedule, because it's all about being consistent. And if you set all this up and it doesn't work well for your schedule and you're not going to be consistent, then none of this even really fucking matters. So that works well for my schedule, my consistency. 3 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on. Arms, legs, shoulders, chest, back. All right. So to make sure we're doing that, and we hit each body part twice per week, because science also says that hitting each muscle group twice per week produces more growth than once per week. And if you hit each muscle group 3 times per week, you still see a little bit of increased growth, but it's very diminished compared to twice per week. So twice per week seems to be the sweet spot, according to research. So that means we need to hit at least 4 exercises per body part per day. I'm sorry, 4 sets per body part per day. At least. At least. And we don't want to go over 16. Let's see. Yeah, we don't want to go over, 16 sets per week. So, to ensure that we don't do that, we're just going to count them and say, okay, well, we don't want to do too much, but we want to do what feels good. So if we go into the gym and it feels good to get 10 sets one day, we'll do 10 sets. All right? And then the next day, we'll do 7 sets. Or we might just do 4 sets for that muscle group. But we know we're at least going to do 4 sets every day. And we're not looking to go over 7 per day unless everything's just feeling great. Then we can go over 7. Per week, we're definitely not going to go over the 16 sets per week. So, I hope this is all making sense to you. But basically, it all boils down to this. We're saying, okay, we need about 16 sets per week, maximum, and 8 sets per week, minimum. And we're going to set out to do at least 8 sets per week per muscle group, no matter what. 16 sets, if we get carried away, we don't want to go over that. If we start going into 18, 19, we want to back it down. And if we're just doing 2 or 3 sets, obviously it's not enough, which I don't anticipate seeing that. The goal is going to be get a good stimulus where we feel our muscles have been engorged in blood, that they have been sufficiently exercised and worked, that the muscle group we're hitting is sufficiently fatigued. And I'm just going to call it a pump, right? The goal is to get a really good pump and then be done. Not do anything more or anything less. Just want to go in, get us a good pump. Now, that sets rep ranges. For rep ranges, I am moving away from the high-end rep ranges. This 15 to 20 reps per set, I'm not a fan of, just because it takes so long to get there, and the fatigue that I accumulate getting there can really tell it has an effect on my central nervous system, and I'm able to lift better with a heavier weight and utilizing less reps. And what I mean is I'm able to lift in a less fatigued state. And that's what I was talking about earlier. The research was showing with the higher reps, you're in a more fatigued state, and your central nervous system will become fatigued much more quickly. So the goal is going to be 7 to 12 reps. That's our goal. If we do, let's say 5 reps and we reach failure, then I think it's a drop set moment, and we need to get 3 to 4 more reps in to get above that 7 rep mark. If we get to 13, 14 reps, then we need to drop the weight and lift heavier on the next set. And that is what we're going to aim to do. Heavier weight so we fatigue with less reps, so that we can minimize damage, because damage does not necessarily mean growth, right? Stimulus means growth. And I know you've heard it, everybody's heard it. When you lift, you get these tiny little tears in your muscle, and these tiny tears in your muscles stimulate growth, and then your body rebuilds those tears and rebuilds your muscles back bigger. However, that's not 100% correct. You can lift until you have those little tears, and your body will repair those tears, and you will probably grow a little bigger when it repairs those tears, those micro tears, because you produce the stimulus needed. However, you can produce the stimulus needed without the damage, without the micro tears, and your body will still produce the muscle growth without damaging your muscles. This has been found when looking at lengthened position exercises and lengthened partials, that it produced the most damage out of any exercise. And while it did produce some additional growth, it also produced additional recovery period, which in the long run mitigated the growth. So you would be better if you would have lifted heavier, less reps, not done as much damage, and been able to lift again sooner to produce 2 forces of stimuli that increased growth twice as much as the singular force of stimuli, then having to rest past the point of being able to produce the second set of stimuli. So just something to think about. Anyway, all that to be said, we're looking at sets between 7 and 14 and we're looking at reps between 7 and 12. And so that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to go in and get about 7 sets per muscle group, 6-7 sets per muscle group, maybe 8 sets per muscle group, and then looking to get 7 to 12 reps out of each of those sets. And really, it's that simple. And I want to go off of, how does this exercise feel? Am I enjoying that? Is it producing the stimulus? Do I feel the stimulus being produced that I want to feel? And just having a little bit more intuition when it comes to my lifting, instead of prescription when it comes to lifting. And that's really it. That's really the what it's going to look like moving forward for at least the next 90 days. Now, if this feels great, which I have a feeling it will, and we just really love it, this routine could become our indefinite routine. It could just be the routine that we're going to cling on to and do for as long as we can imagine. But we can't commit to that yet until we've done this routine for our 90-day commitment and look back at it and said, did this make sense? Did we get the gains? Did this work for us? Do we want to tweak this? Do we want to tweak that? Do we want to remove this, remove that? You know, whatever it might be. Also, other thing is, I talked to a fella that's a bodybuilder the other day. I just had him looking at all my stats and everything. He was saying, like, we look really good. We're right on track to where we want to go. We can take this thing as far as we want to take it. Our weakest point right now is our abdominal muscles. I absolutely agree with that. They said that we need to focus on building our abdominal muscles. I absolutely agree with that. So the strategy I'm going to take, at least for the next 30 days, possibly 90 days, is going to be 30 minutes of cardio followed by abdominal exercises every single day. And I'm going to rotate the abdominal exercises. So let's say, for instance, I do upper abs with cable crunches. The next day I'm going to work on lower abs with leg raises. And then we're going to repeat that. Upper, lower, upper, lower, upper, lower. Every day, hit our abs to stimulate growth. The reason that I think we're going to be able to get away with this is because abdominal muscles are one of those muscle groups that we use constantly for everything. And it is a muscle group that is used to being utilized a lot. Kind of like your calves. It's just a muscle group that takes a beating day in, day out. So the fatigue ratio isn't as great. At least I don't feel like it's as great for me as it is for other muscle groups. I can hit abs and the next day be ready to hit them again. Now, if I start to get to the point where I'm sore the next day from hitting abs, then I will take rest days, and we'll talk about that as we move forward. But for the time being right now, we're going to hit cardio every day for 30 minutes, then hit abs. And the reason we're reducing our cardio to 30 minutes instead of an hour is because we're going to be hitting abs right behind cardio. And we'll see where it can take us. The other thing that we're going to adjust is shoulder exercises. Our front delts are starting to get bigger than the rest of our shoulder, and we need to let our side delts and rear delts catch up to front delts. So we are going to remove the front delt raises from the routine. They work great. They got my front delts where I wanted them to be. They're looking really good, but it's time to back off of the front delt movements where we're really focusing on those so that we can let the rest of the shoulder catch up. So front delts will be removed, and we will just be doing rear delts and side delts moving forward. And that's it. Everything else will remain the same. I really like where my calves are at. I don't know. They're not huge. They're not giant, right? But at the same time, I don't feel like they're lacking at all. I feel like they're progressing pretty good with the remainder of my leg. Now, if it becomes a point where I think my quads and hams are starting to overtake my calves, then I will add a few more days of calf exercises in. But for right now, we're going to stick there. And also, I may be including adductor and abductors behind the ab exercises, right? So I might do upper and then abductors, lower adductors, or something like that. But I want to throw in abductors and adductors and abductors for my legs more. Basically, I haven't done them at all. I have not done them in a year and a quarter since I've been lifting. Not done that exercise, either of those exercises. So I want to incorporate it into the routine. And that's that. So anyway, that's where we're at. If anybody watched this, I know these videos aren't that popular. Everybody likes to watch the lifting videos, the nutritional videos, the update videos, the rest day videos are just not very popular videos. So we'll see. Do I want to continue doing them? I mean, it might be a thing where, you know, maybe we decide not to, all right, not to continue them. But for right now, we're going to leave them in, and we'll make a decision on what we want to do as we move forward. And I got a comment the other day that said, "Are you doing the Sam Sulek style videos?" Well, for one, Sam Sulek is a major inspiration for me. I'll give you that. I'm not necessarily doing these videos Sam Sulek style, like I watched him and said, I want to do videos exactly like him. When I saw his video, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh, look, he's doing the old vlog style videos that the fitness videos used to be, where you take people through your entire workout and your routine, and you talk to them about it, and so on and so forth, prior and post. And that was a really popular format, and I thought, wow, it's really cool that he's bringing that format back. But then also I said, well, I want to start recording myself and putting my stuff up on YouTube. What style do I want to use? And I thought about several different styles that, you know, well, maybe I'll just record once a week, or maybe I'll just record one set, or maybe I'll just do this, do that. And I thought to myself, well, if I'm recording, I already got the damn phone there. I'm already doing the exercises. It's not that much just to hit record and record the exercise. It doesn't take a ton of editing the way I do it. And I'm gonna be doing all this stuff anyway. So basically I'm recording something that I'm already doing. I'm spending a little bit of time editing it, and that's it. So for me, this style of videography, I guess you would call it that. I don't know. Just using my phone. I'm definitely ain't got a badass Sony camera and doing all of it. I need a better camera, just simply because I want to blur the background, because I feel like it can be a little intrusive into people's privacy, not having the background as blurred as much as I'd like utilizing the iPhone. And then I tried the cinematic view that blurs the background. It looked like trash, so I don't want to utilize the cinematic view with the iPhone. But that being said, I would like a better camera so I can blur the background, just to help other people's privacy around me, honestly. But I guess all that is to say, yes, very, very similar Samsung style. And this is more for me to document my journey, where I go, where I've come from, and, you know, for others to kind of learn from that want to progress in the same way, right? So, but if I'm being honest, would I be where I am today without Sam? I don't think I would, because watching his videos allowed me to understand what lifting to failure was. And while I have lifted for the majority of my life, it's different whenever you lift with somebody or watch somebody lift who is an actual bodybuilder that is utilizing the old school methodologies, than when you read about it in a magazine or whatever it might be. And when you're lifting with sports related programs like football, soccer, basketball, things like that, you're lifting for strength and functionality, not for growth. So it's just totally different, right? 3 sets of 10 reps means 3 sets of 10 reps. Does not mean 3 sets of 10, does not mean some of them might be 15, because you got to get to failure, right? You got to go to your muscles aren't producing force anymore. And that's the biggest difference that and takeaway that I had from Sam. But could I ever be where he is? I don't think so. I don't think so. My goal is never to set out to have the next Sam Sulek type of channel that was big and huge, and, you know, I was somewhere famous and or somewhat famous and blah blah blah. That's just probably not. I'm realistic. It's probably not gonna happen. I'm not jacked. I'm not fucking huge. You know, just for those 2 reasons right there are gonna be a lot of people that say, does this guy know what he's talking about? He doesn't look like a monster yet, right? And if I get there, great. I mean, that's the goal. That's where we want to be. You know, at some point we want that Lee Priest. What the fuck is wrong with this guy? Why is he that big? I mean, that's where we're looking to get at some point in the future. But we're definitely not there, and we got a long time before we get there. And I think just already having that size is going to help if you're, you know, trying to be a content creator or whatnot. And I really consider Sam a bodybuilder that is just bringing everybody along for the journey more than a content creator. So anyway, I would consider myself a content creator that happens to be bodybuilding. And if people watch it, they watch it. And then what do I consider influencers? Well, influencers are people that have a certain audience size. So Sam Sulek is definitely an influencer because his audience size is to the degree that it's influencing people. I'm not even fucking close. I probably never will be close to being an influencer. And that's okay. Because in 30 years from now, I can go back and watch these videos and say, look what I did. Look what I went from that to that. Look what I did. Look at my accomplishments. And that's more why this channel is here. Is for me to be able to see my accomplishments as I move forward. But also, it helps with accountability to some degree, if I'm just being totally honest. Like, if I don't do my video and put it up, people are going to be wondering what the fuck's going on and why. And not necessarily strangers watching this, right? Although, if it was a stranger saying, hey, man, why didn't you put a video up in 4 days? What's going on? And I would be like, oh shit, I need to get on, I need to get my ass in gear. There's actual people out here wondering. But I got a lot of friends and family who watch these things at this point. And yeah, I don't want to let them down. So it helps me not let myself down, helps me stay accountable, helps me not let my friends and family down. And it also allows me to go back, look at my lifts, look at my progression, see the things I can do differently. And it is a diary to some degree of my lifting experience. So anybody that was curious as to why I'm doing what I'm doing, that's that. And if I can help other people along the way, if I can be an inspiration, if I can teach you something, I know a lot about this shit. So if you can gain a little bit of my knowledge and make yourself a better person, then this has been successful. If just one person has helped, this has been successful. Honestly, one person commented and said, I didn't feel like going to the gym, but after watching your video, I'm going. Thank you for putting this video up. I know I at least got one person to go to the gym that didn't feel like it one day. Makes all of it worth it, honestly. The whole damn thing's worth it from that one comment. Anyway, I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna get my cardio done. And then when I get done with that, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna rest. Tomorrow, we will see each other and we will be lifting. And yeah, tomorrow's an arm day, which is our favorite days.